The polished marble floors of Technova Solutions' corporate lobby reflected the harsh fluorescent lights like a cold mirror as Amara Carter adjusted her designer blazer. The scent of overpriced coffee and corporate ambition hung thick in the air when regional manager Brian McCullough's voice cut through the hum of midday activity. "Well, well," he drawled, his Boston accent dripping with mockery as he circled her like a shark, his security badge swinging from his belt. Another lost soul wandering where they don't belong. Before she could present her visitor pass, Brian snatched his half-finished Mountain Dew from the reception desk and poured it in a slow, deliberate arc over her braided hair. Citrus-scented soda splashed across her tablet, drowning the Meridian acquisition files in sticky liquid. 15 pairs of eyes snapped toward them, executives clutching caramel macchiatos, interns with phones already raised. Amara didn't flinch. She simply blinked soda from her eyelashes and checked her Rolex. 47 p.m. 13 minutes, she whispered, snapping a photo of Brian's smug face as he wiped his hands on his Hugo Boss slacks. The unspoken threat in his grin faltered when she added, "Tell me, Brian, does HR know about your little caffeine addiction the way you charged 12 energy drinks to the company card last quarter?" A nervous titter rippled through the crowd. Over by the elevators, junior analyst Jason Kim stopped pretending to check emails, his fingers hovering over his phone's record button. Security guard Marcus Wright, a 6'4" veteran with 3 tours in Iraq, stepped forward, his polished shoes squelching in the soda puddle. "Sir," Marcus said, his voice the calm before a storm, "this lady's got full clearance, corporate legal team." Brian's laugh was too loud, too sharp. "Since when do we let people waltz in here looking like they robbed a Gucci store?" Amara reached into her ruined briefcase and extracted a dripping folder, the confidential CEO eyes only stamp, bleeding blue ink. "Funny," she mused. "I could have sworn Technova's anti-discrimination policy was printed right under the no-stealing clause." The lobby's air conditioning seemed to drop 10 degrees. Then came the twist no one expected. The receptionist, quiet, mousy Emily from accounting, suddenly slammed her binder shut. "Actually," she said, her voice shaking but clear, "I took photos last month when you did this to the FedEx guy." She tapped her phone screen, and the entire lobby watched Brian's pastel polo-clad doppelganger dump iced coffee on a delivery man's turban. Marcus's radio crackled to life with static, and the CEO's unmistakable bark, "McCullough, my office, now." As Brian paled, Amara finally smiled, plucking a soda-soaked contract from the floor. 11 minutes, she said, and the way her gold watch caught the light looked an awful lot like a countdown. The tension in the lobby was so thick you could taste it like burnt coffee and corporate fear. Jerome's fingers tightened around Amara's VIP badge as Brad snatched it away, his face twisting into something ugly. "Fake," Brad scoffed, holding it up like evidence in a courtroom. "You expect us to believe David Washington, our CEO, would have you delivering his contracts?" The way he said you was a blade sharpened by years of quiet bigotry. Amara didn't blink. "Call him," she said, her voice steady. "His direct line's on the back of that badge." Brad hesitated just for a second. That was all the opening she needed. Then came the twist no one saw coming. From the elevator bank, a sharp ding cut through the silence. The doors slid open, and out stepped a man in a tailored navy suit, David Washington himself, his expression dark as storm clouds. The entire lobby froze. Even the air seemed to stop circulating. "Problem here, Brad." David's voice was deceptively calm, the kind of quiet that comes before a hurricane. Brad's mouth opened, then closed. Carol Rodriguez, who'd been so quick to side with him, took a half step back, her heels clicking against the marble. But it was Lisa Miller, the junior exec, still recording everything, who dropped the bomb. "Mr. Washington," she blurted, pointing at Amara. She's been trying to tell them she's your wife. The silence that followed was deafening. Brad's face drained of color. Carol's perfectly manicured nails dug into her palms. And Jerome. He just sighed, rubbing his temple like he'd seen this train wreck coming from miles away. Amara finally answered her buzzing phone, holding it up so everyone could hear David's assistant on speaker. "Mrs. Washington, the board is waiting. Where are those contracts?" David didn't wait for an explanation. He took one look at the soda-soaked documents, the sticky puddles on the floor, and his wife's ruined blazer. Then he turned to Brad, his voice low and lethal. "Clean out your desk." And just like that, the predator became the prey. The air in the lobby crackled with tension as Robert Harrison, the only senior executive with enough clout to challenge Brad, stepped forward. His polished Oxfords clicked against the marble as he positioned himself between Amara and Brad's escalating fury. "Brad," Robert said, his voice low but firm, "you're making a mistake." Brad's laugh was jagged, unhinged. "Oh, I'm making the mistake. Look at her, Rob. She waltzes in here like she owns the place." "Maybe she does," Robert shot back. That silenced Brad for half a second, just long enough for Maya, the receptionist, to finally find her voice. "Sir," she blurted, pointing at her screen, "the CEO's office just messaged again. They're demanding to know if Mrs. Washington is here." The title Mrs. Washington landed like a grenade. Carol Rodriguez's confident smirk faltered. Brad's grip on Amara's badge loosened. And then, as if on cue, the elevator doors slid open again, but this time it wasn't just David. The entire board of directors filed out their expressions ranging from confusion to outright fury. At the front stood David Washington, his gaze locking onto his wife's soda-drenched blazer, the ruined contracts the way Brad still held her badge like a trophy. His voice when he spoke was dangerously quiet. "Brad, explain why my wife looks like she swam through a vending machine." Brad's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Then came the twist, the one detail Amara had withheld. She reached into her sodden briefcase and pulled out a single, pristine folder. "The real contracts," she said, handing them to David. "I had duplicates. These were just decoys." She glanced at Brad, her smile razor thin. "Though I didn't expect your team to go full sugar rush on them." The board members exchanged glances. One, a silver-haired woman with a reputation for ruthless efficiency, stepped forward. "Brad McCullough." She said, "You've just cost this company $340 million in delays, and that," she added, nodding at Amara, "is our lead counsel on the Meridian deal." Brad's knees buckled. Carol Rodriguez quietly edged toward the exit, but it was Robert who delivered the final blow. "Oh, and Brad," he held up his phone screen bright with a live recording Lisa's footage already viral. "HR wants to see you, and so does legal." The clock struck 3:10 p.m., right on time. The marble lobby had become a stage, every eye locked on the unfolding drama. Amara remained kneeling, carefully blotting soda from a critical signature page with her silk scarf, a move so calculated it screamed legal precision. 4 minutes, she murmured more to herself than anyone else. Then came the sound no one expected, the sharp ping of the executive elevator. All heads turned as the doors parted to reveal not just David Washington, but the entire C-suite entourage. The CFO gripping his tablet, the general counsel adjusting her glasses, and 3 board members whose collective net worth could buy the building twice over. David took one look at his wife. Her blouse ruined, her hair still damp, and his expression turned volcanic. "What the hell is going on here?" Brad's mouth opened, but before he could spin his lie, Jennifer Walsh from marketing stepped forward. "Mr. Washington, your wife's been trying to deliver the Meridian contracts, but what?" David's voice cracked like a whip. The room collectively held its breath. Amara rose smoothly, extending the salvaged folder. "They insisted I didn't belong here, David. Poured a Mountain Dew on the originals." She tilted her head toward Brad, whose Adam's apple bobbed violently. Your regional manager was very concerned about corporate espionage. The general counsel, a no-nonsense black woman named Diane Pierce, snatched the folder and flipped through it. These are the only copies? Of course not, Amara said, reaching into her bag to produce a flash drive. Backups. But the board prefers wet signatures, don't they? That's when the second twist hit. Lisa's iPhone screen lit up with a notification her LinkedIn live stream had just been shared by the CEO of a Fortune 500 competitor. Viewer count $12,000 and climbing. Comments exploded. Technova's about to lose more than a merger. That's Amara Carter-Washington. She closed the Pfizer deal last year. Brad lunged for Lisa's phone. Delete that right now. Don't. Diane Pierce's voice froze him mid-reach. She held up her own phone, displaying a breaking news alert from Bloomberg Technova execs in viral discrimination scandal during 340-man merger. Congratulations, Brad. You just made the company untouchable. The clock struck 3:00 p.m. Somewhere on the 32nd floor, a boardroom full of investors received a mass email the Meridian deal was being reconsidered. And in the lobby, David Washington took his wife's hand and said the two words that sealed Brad's fate. Pack up. The lobby had become a pressure cooker every second, stretching tighter as Amara held out her phone toward Brad. His hands trembled slightly as he refused to take it, his eyes darting around the room like a cornered animal. I don't need to. Then the elevator chimed again. This time, the doors opened to reveal not just David Washington, but the entire executive leadership team, flanked by two stone-faced security officers from the corporate division, both towering men with earpieces and the kind of presence that screamed high-level termination in progress. David didn't even glance at Brad. He strode straight to his wife, gently taking the soda-stained documents from her hands. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly, his thumb brushing a sticky strand of hair from her forehead. Amara simply nodded toward Lisa's still recording phone. "We've got an audience." That's when the first notification pinged Jennifer Walsh's phone, lighting up with a breaking news alert: tech giant Technova in viral racism scandal during critical merger. The Wall Street Journal had picked up Lisa's live stream. Brad finally found his voice. "David, I can explain." "No." David's voice cut through the room like a blade. He turned to the corporate security team. "Escort Mr. Stevens to his office. He has 15 minutes to clear out his desk." Then came the twist no one expected. Carol Rodriguez suddenly stepped forward, her voice shrill with panic. "This is all a misunderstanding. Brad was just being cautious about security protocols." Amara reached into her bag and produced a second phone, one that had been recording the entire encounter. "Funny," she mused, "because your security protocols sounded an awful lot like racial profiling when you said I dressed too nice to be legitimate." The blood drained from Carol's face. David took the phone, his expression hardening as he scrolled through the footage. Without looking up, he addressed the remaining executives. "Cancel all meetings. We're holding an emergency diversity training session starting with the board." As corporate security led Brad away, Maya at the front desk made one final move, printing out visitor logs showing Amara's monthly VIP visits. She slid them across the counter toward Robert Harrison, whose face went pale as he recognized the pattern. 3 minutes, Amara said softly, checking her watch as the elevator doors closed on the executives. Right on schedule. The marble lobby had become a courtroom, and David Washington was both judge and executioner. His polished Oxfords clicked against the soda-stained floor as he approached Brad, each step measured like a countdown. "Let me understand this," David said, his voice dangerously calm. "You assaulted my wife, destroyed company property, and delayed a $340 million deal because you assumed she didn't belong here." Brad's mouth worked soundlessly, his eyes darting to Carol for support, but she'd suddenly become very interested in her shoes. The air conditioning hummed louder in the silence, carrying the faint sound of Lisa's live stream notifications, pinging non-stop. CNBC had just shared the feed. Then came the twist that sealed Brad's fate. From the crowd, a junior analyst named Ethan Cho stepped forward, phone in hand. "Mr. Washington, I think you should see this." He played a video from last month's holiday party, Brad drunkenly bragging to co-workers about how he keeps the ghetto element out of the building. The timestamp proved it was recorded during work hours on company property. David didn't even blink. He simply turned to the head of HR who'd materialized from the elevator bank. "Gather every incident report Brad's ever filed. I want to see who else he's protected us from." Amara finally broke her silence, reaching into her ruined briefcase. "Before we adjourn," she said, producing a perfectly dry USB drive, "the digital copies of the Meridian contracts. I always carry backups." She handed it to David with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Though I didn't expect to need the waterproof case today." The lobby cameras, everyone realized too late, had captured everything in 4K. Legal would have a field day. As corporate security escorted Brad out, his tailored suit jacket snagged on the doorframe, a fitting metaphor for the career he'd just unraveled. The last thing the crowd heard was David telling the board members, "Cancel the rest of your day. We're auditing every hiring and security protocol in this building." And at precisely 3:01 p.m., the Technova Solutions Twitter account posted a single tweet that would later be studied in business schools. "Effective immediately, we're implementing mandatory unconscious bias training, starting with senior leadership." The attached video showed Brad's Mountain Dew moment in glorious HD. The lobby had become a theater of reckoning. David's fingers tightened around Amara's phone as he scrolled through the damning timestamps, 13 minutes of calculated humiliation captured in high resolution. Then came the sound that made Brad flinch, the sharp ping of David, forwarding the photos to the entire executive team with a single tap. "That's going to the board," David said quietly, "along with security footage and every social media post from today." Brad's expensive tie suddenly seemed to be strangling him. "Sir, I can explain." "No." Amara's voice cut through the room for the first time with steel beneath its calm. She reached into her bag and produced a business card, crisp and untouched by soda. "This is my personal attorney's information. All further communication goes through her." The card gleamed under the lobby lights. Vanessa Pierce, named partner at Pierce & Goldstein, the firm that had won the landmark Wells Fargo discrimination case. Then came the twist that shattered any remaining denials. From the back of the crowd, a soft-spoken IT technician named Raj Patel spoke up. "Mr. Washington, I pulled the visitor logs." He held up a tablet showing Brad's own digital trail every time Amara had signed in, every time Brad had been notified of her VIP clearance. He approved her access himself 3 times last quarter. David didn't even look at Brad. He simply turned to the head of security. "Escort Mr. Stevens to pack his desk. HR will supervise." But Amara wasn't finished. She tapped her phone, and a new recording played Brad's voice from earlier, crystal clear. "Does she look like CEO material to you? Use your eyes, Jerome." The racial venom hung in the air like poison. Carol Rodriguez made one last desperate play. "This is getting out of hand. We were just..." "Quiet." David didn't raise his voice, but the word silenced her instantly. He addressed the gathered employees, his arm around his wife's shoulders. "Effective immediately, Technova is instituting mandatory anti-bias training at every level, starting with a town hall meeting today." As security led Brad away, Maya at the front desk did something unexpected. She handed Amara a dry blazer from the Lost and Found. "It's not designer," she apologized, "but it's clean." Amara accepted it with a genuine smile, the first of the afternoon. "Thank you, Maya. You'll be hearing from HR about a promotion." And at precisely 3:17 p.m., the Technova Investor Relations team began damage control, as the company's stock price started its inevitable slide. The real cost of Brad's Mountain Dew moment would be measured in millions, but the cultural reckoning, that would be priceless. The lobby had transformed into a corporate crime scene, every executive's face reflecting the same realization. This wasn't just a scandal, it was an extinction-level event for their careers. David's phone buzzed with an incoming call from the board chairman. He answered on speaker, letting the man's booming voice echo across the marble floors. "David, what in God's name is happening down there? CNBC just called for comment." Then came the twist that turned the knife. Amara reached into her briefcase and produced a small black device, a digital recorder that had been running since she entered the building. "For the investigation," she said calmly, handing it to legal counsel. "It captures everything from Brad's first comment about me not belonging to Carol accusing me of espionage." James Morrison, the lead attorney, nearly dropped it. This is evidence-grade audio." The CFO's calculator fingers flew over his phone. "Stock's already down 3%. That's $72 million in market cap gone before the closing bell." David turned to the head of security. "I want Brad's building access revoked immediately. Escort him out through the loading dock." His gaze swept over Carol. "You too. HR will contact you about termination proceedings." But the real devastation came when Patricia Miller from HR spoke up. "Sir, I'm pulling Brad's personnel file now." She scrolled through her tablet, then froze. "This can't be right. He's had 7 prior complaints about racial bias, all buried by middle management." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. The systemic rot went deeper than anyone imagined. Amara finally let her composure crack just enough. She turned to the assembled employees, her voice trembling with controlled fury. "How many others has this happened to? How many talented people did you chase away because they didn't fit your idea of professionalism?" The silence was answer enough. David took his wife's hand as the elevator arrived to take them upstairs. Before the doors closed, he delivered his final blow. "Patricia, start preparing separation packages. We're cleaning house. And someone get me the number for the EEOC. We're self-reporting before the feds come knocking." As the elevator ascended, the lobby erupted in panicked whispers. Lisa's live stream captured it all the moment Technova Solutions learned that racism isn't just morally bankrupt, but catastrophically expensive. By market close, Technova racism would be trending nationally, and Brad's LinkedIn profile would already display the 2 words no executive ever wants to see open to work. The air in the lobby grew heavier as Amara considered the board chairman's question. Every employee leaned in their futures, hanging on her response. Then came the twist that would redefine corporate accountability. Amara reached into her briefcase and produced a document. Not the sodden contracts, but a crisp, unsigned agreement. "This is a settlement proposal," she said, handing it to David. "Technova will establish a $5 million diversity fund for minority employees, implement promotion transparency protocols, and appoint an independent oversight committee with veto power over HR decisions." The CFO choked on his coffee. $5 million, that's cheaper than the lawsuit," Amara finished smoothly, "which would cost $20 million minimum, plus the inevitable shareholder derivative suits." David didn't hesitate. He took the pen from his pocket and signed on the spot. Done. But the real bombshell came next. From the back of the crowd, a junior accountant named Derek Johnson spoke up, his voice shaking but determined. "Mr. Washington, I have something you should see." He forwarded an email chain showing Brad had blocked 3 minority candidates from promotions last quarter, calling them culture mismatches in writing. The blood drained from Patricia's face. Those records were confidential. Derek stood his ground. Not when they're evidence. David's phone buzzed again, this time with a Bloomberg alert. "Technova Solutions faces mass. Employee walkout over viral racism scandal." The hashtag #NotMyTechnova was trending. Amara checked her watch, 3:05 p.m., then addressed the stunned executives. "Gentlemen, you have exactly 24 hours to announce these reforms before the DOJ comes knocking. I suggest you start drafting the press release." As she turned toward the elevators, the crowd parted like the Red Sea. The woman they dismissed as an intruder now held the power to dismantle their entire corporate structure, and she'd done it without raising her voice once. By nightfall, Brad's face would grace every major news network. Carol's LinkedIn would be flooded with angry comments, and Technova's stock would close down 8%. But the real damage was measured in something far more valuable than dollars. The unshakable precedent that racism in the workplace wouldn't just be punished, it would be bankrupted. The conference room's tension could have powered the entire building, as Amara turned to a fresh page in the HR report. "Let's discuss retention," she said, her finger resting on a damning statistic. Black employees hired at Technova have an 82% turnover rate within 2 years, triple that of white hires. She paused, letting the number sink in. That's not coincidence. That's systemic failure. Then came the twist that shattered any remaining denials. David's assistant burst in holding a printed email. "Sir, you need to see this." It was a forwarded message from Brad's account to Carol dated 3 weeks prior. "Another diversity hire today. Can you believe we have to lower standards like this?" Attached was the resume of a Black MBA graduate from Northwestern, now one of Technova's top-performing analysts. Board member Hernandez's hand flew to her mouth. "My God!" Amara didn't flinch. She simply pulled a flash drive from her pocket. "I took the liberty of compiling testimony from 17 former minority employees. They describe everything from microaggressions to outright sabotage of promotions." She slid it across the table. "The EEOC will find this fascinating." The CFO's calculator fingers flew again. If even half these claims are substantiated, we're looking at 9 figures in liabilities. David stood, his soda-stained sleeves rolled up like a fighter preparing for battle. "We're not waiting for the EEOC. Effective immediately, we're implementing blind resume reviews, mandatory diverse hiring panels, and tying executive bonuses to diversity metrics." He turned to the head of PR. "Draft a public apology in my name and set up interviews with Black Enterprise and Essence. Amara will lead our new Office of Equity and Inclusion." But the real mic drop came when Amara's phone buzzed with a notification. She showed the screen to David, a text from the mayor's office requesting an urgent meeting about city contracts. Chicago's government, it seemed, was reconsidering its $200 million partnership with Technova. As the board members scrambled to draft damage control statements, one final revelation emerged. The young analyst Lisa, whose live stream had started it all, had just been offered 6 figures by CNN to continue documenting Technova's reckoning as an on-air correspondent. By midnight, Brad's face would become the national symbol of corporate racism. Carol's name would trend alongside Me Too, and Technova's stock would plummet another 5%. But in that conference room, as Amara finally changed into dry clothes, something more important happened: the birth of a corporate revolution that would be studied in business schools for decades to come. The projector hummed as Amara advanced to her final slide, a side-by-side comparison showing Technova's dismal diversity numbers next to industry leaders. "Fifth," she continued, her voice gaining steel, "we establish a $5 million restitution fund for employees who face discrimination under our watch. No NDAs, no gag orders, just compensation for harm done." Then came the twist that changed everything. David's assistant rushed in with an iPad. "Sir, the Chicago Tribune just published this." The screen displayed an explosive article. "Former Technova employee speaks out. They fired me for reporting racism." Attached was a photo of a young Black woman, Maya's predecessor at the front desk, holding termination papers, dated the same day she'd filed a complaint against Brad. Board member Torres nearly knocked over his water glass. "That's Maya Johnson's sister." Amara didn't blink. "Correction, that's 2 lawsuits now." She tapped her tablet, pulling up an email chain. "And here's Brad joking about it with Carol. 1 down 30 to go." The room erupted. Margaret Kim immediately recalculated the potential liability had just doubled. But the real bombshell came when the conference phone rang. David hit speaker to reveal the voice of Technova's largest institutional investor. "We're pulling $200 million unless you announce these reforms by market open. And the board votes tonight, either clean house voluntarily or we'll do it for you at the shareholder meeting." Amara seized the moment. "There's one more thing." She opened a video file security footage from earlier that day showing not just Brad's soda stunt, but 3 separate instances of employees laughing along. "These are your future leaders," she said quietly, "trained by your current ones." David didn't hesitate. He stood rolling up his stained sleeves. Patricia drafted the termination papers. Margaret released the diversity fund announcement. James contact the EEOC. We're self-reporting before they subpoena us. As the board members scrambled to act, one final revelation emerged. Lisa's livestream had been picked up by national media, and Technova Reckoning was now the top trend worldwide. By morning, Brad would be unemployable. Carol would be facing deposition notices, and Technova would become the unlikely pioneer of corporate accountability. But in that moment, as Amara finally accepted a clean blazer from David's assistant, the only sound was the furious typing of a company, rewriting its future one painful truth at a time. The boardroom fell silent as Amara's final demand landed like a thunderclap. A public apology from Brad would be humiliation on a national scale and perfect poetic justice. Then came the twist that sealed his fate. David's phone buzzed with an email from legal. "We just received Brad's termination agreement," he announced, scrolling through the document. "He's demanding 2 years' salary and full stock vesting in exchange for his silence." Amara didn't hesitate. She slid her own phone across the table, displaying a draft tweet. "Technova will donate Brad's $340,000 severance package to Chicago's African-American business incubator, unless he issues a public apology by 5 p.m. today." Board member Torres whistled low. "That's brutal." "No," Amara corrected. Brutal was watching a 22-year-old intern cry after Brad called her diversity hire to her face. This is accountability. The vote was unanimous. Brad would get nothing unless he apologized. But the real masterstroke came next. Amara opened a new file, a list of 37 minority employees who'd left Technova under Brad's management. "We're inviting them back with promotions and back pay," she declared. Starting with Maya's sister, who was fired for reporting discrimination. The CFO nearly choked. "Do you know what that will cost?" "Less than the class action they're about to file," David countered. He turned to the head of PR. "Release a statement. Technova's best talent left because we failed them. Now we're begging them to return." As the meeting adjourned, one final development emerged. Lisa's live stream had been viewed over 5 million times, and she'd just been offered a book deal. The title, "Soda Justice: How One Woman Exposed Corporate Racism." By 5:01 p.m., Brad would fold, issuing a tearful apology on LinkedIn that would be mocked across the internet. By week's end, Technova's stock would rebound as ESG investors praised their radical transparency. And by month's end, Amara would be named Chief Equity Officer with veto power over all hiring and promotions. But in that moment, as she finally changed out of her stained clothes, the only sound was the quiet click of her heels on marble, the unmistakable rhythm of systemic change in motion. The training room fell silent as Jerome queued up security footage from the incident, not just Brad pouring soda, but the moments before. The video showed Amara entering calmly, Brad immediately stiffening at the sight of her, his eyes tracking her designer bag with undisguised contempt. "Freeze it right there," Jerome instructed. "See how his posture changes the second she walks in. That's unconscious bias in real time." Then came the twist that changed the entire training session. A new employee, a young black woman named Keisha from the mailroom, raised her hand. "That's nothing," she said, pulling up her phone. "Watch this." She played a clip from last month showing Brad following a black delivery driver through the building demanding to see his ID 3 separate times while white vendors waltzed in unchecked. The room erupted. 3 other employees came forward with similar stories. Brad questioning their credentials, randomly, checking their bags, making comments about people like you, not belonging in tech. Jerome let the stories hang in the air before dropping his bombshell. Now watch this. He played never-before-seen elevator footage from the incident day, Brad bragging to Carol before Amara arrived. Watch, I'll have security toss her before she makes it to the elevators. These people always try to sneak in where they don't belong. The recording ended just as Maya burst into the training room, her face flushed. You need to see this. She projected Brad's LinkedIn apology on the wall, where the comments section had exploded with over 15,000 responses. The top reply came from an unverified account. This isn't accountability, it's damage control. Real change starts when privileged people lose something. Like your $3 million Hamptons home, Brad, the one you just listed for sale. The room gasped. Someone had dug up Brad's real estate records. Down in the lobby, Amara walked past the new diversity displays and paused at the security desk. Jerome, she said, handing him a folder. I believe you'll find these termination papers for Carol Rodriguez quite satisfying to process. As she stepped into the elevator, the last thing she heard was the sound of Maya whooping with joy and the shredder devouring Carol's employee badge. By 5 p.m., Brad's house would look better in black ownership, would be trending, Technova's stock would hit a 30-day high, and Amara would receive an unexpected email from the White House requesting her input on federal workplace equity policies. But in that moment, as the elevator doors closed, the only thing that mattered was the quiet ping of her phone. A text from David. Proud of you. Also, the board voted. You're our new COO. Justice, it seemed, was just getting started. Lisa's fingers flew across the keyboard as she finalized the SafeSpeak app's security protocols. Then came the unexpected alert, a notification that the system was already receiving submissions before launch. That's impossible, she muttered, opening the first message. It was from Maya's sister, the former receptionist Brad had fired. Attached were screenshots of HR emails discussing her termination, clear proof it was retaliation for reporting discrimination. I wasn't anonymous then, the message read, but I'm ready to trust you now. Upstairs, Dr. Williams leaned forward during her interview. Before I accept this position, I have one condition. She slid a document across the table, a proposal for truth and reconciliation sessions, where employees could share experiences of discrimination without fear. Healing starts when we listen to the pain we've caused. Amara didn't hesitate. Done. But the real surprise came from Jerome's training session. Security guard Maria Santos stood suddenly, her voice shaking. I need to report something. She played a voicemail from Brad sent just that morning threatening her job if she turned traitor during the diversity training. The timestamp proved he'd violated his non-disparagement clause. Amara's phone buzzed with an urgent email from legal. Brad's severance was now forfeit, and he faced potential defamation charges. By day's end, 3 more whistleblowers would come forward. Technova's stock would hit a 52-week high, and the Chicago Urban League would name Amara Corporate Leader of the Year. But in that moment, as Dr. Williams shook Amara's hand to accept the CDO position, the only sound was the quiet hum of progress and the distant shredder devouring the last of Brad's employment records. As Amara concluded her speech in Atlanta, she paused, then revealed a surprise that brought the audience to their feet. Today, Technova is launching the Equity Innovation Lab. She announced, clicking to a slide showing a $10 million investment in minority-led tech startups. Because real change means creating opportunities, not just fixing past mistakes. Back in Chicago, Maya Rodriguez sat in her new corner office, now leading Technova's Emerging Leaders program, reviewing applications from HBCU students. The first name on her list, her younger sister, who just graduated top of her class at Howard University. Then came the twist no one expected. Jerome's security team intercepted a delivery, a framed photo of Brad Stevens, working at a fast food drive-thru, sent anonymously with a note, "Some people belong exactly where they put others." Maya hung it in the lobby break room as a quiet reminder of how far they'd come. By quarter's end, Technova would land on Fortune's Best Places to Work list. Dr. Williams' program would reduce discrimination reports by 72%, and Amara would be invited to testify before Congress about corporate accountability. But in that Atlanta auditorium, as Amara stepped away from the podium, the most powerful moment came when a young black girl in the audience whispered just loud enough to be heard, "I want to be like her when I grow up." The cycle of change, it seemed, had only just begun. As Amara stepped off the stage in Atlanta, a young black executive from a Fortune 500 company rushed forward with tears in her eyes. "Your story changed everything," she said, pressing a business card into Amara's hand. The embossed title read Chief Diversity Officer, a position created after their board saw the Technova footage. Back in Chicago, Maya Rodriguez's sister officially accepted her offer from Technova's Emerging Leaders Program, the first HBCU graduate in its history. Her first assignment, redesigning visitor protocols to include AI-powered bias detection at security checkpoints. Then came the unexpected twist. A package arrived at Technova headquarters. Brad's old Manager of the Year plaque anonymously returned with the inscription, "Altered, now serving as warning to others." David had it mounted in the lobby as a permanent reminder. By year's end, the ripple effects would include 14 major corporations adopting SafeSpeak's reporting system, Congress citing Technova's model in new workplace equity legislation, Amara's memoir, spending 16 weeks on the NYT bestseller list. But the most powerful moment came when Jerome's security team reported an unusual trend: zero discrimination complaints for 7 straight weeks. Not because incidents weren't being reported, but because they'd stopped happening altogether. As Amara boarded her flight home, she received one final text, a photo from David of their new Seattle office's lobby. The security desk now displayed 2 items, a Crystal Diversity Leader Award and a framed, unopened can of Mountain Dew. The message read simply, "Never forget where we started." Some revolutions, it seemed, began with the quietest acts of courage and ended by changing everything.